Welcome, everybody, to this episode of True Diligence. Jill and I are so excited to have Jasper Mirable in studio. You just make me excited and up and happy because that's how you are every time I see you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm just glad you pronounced my name correctly. You've known me long enough, so you and Jill both.
Before we talk about all of the success that Jasper's has had over the last several decades and the big anniversary they're celebrating, Jill, first the food. Where have you been?
Well, I went to the brewery. Do you remember when we had Sean Galloway in for our fermentation podcast? And I hadn't been there yet. So went to North Kansas City. It's a cute little place. Lots of different flavors on tap.
Kombucha, yes?
Kombucha. Don't you love to say that word?
Yes.
I had four. I had a flight. Four little tastes. I had some chili pepper. I had a strawberry lemon. I had a pale ale. And I had the spa treatment, which I like best.
What's the spa treatment? Was it like cucumber something? Or?
Lavender.
Lovely.
And other calming agents. So it was very good. I also had a panini while I was there, Cuban panini.
I don't think I knew they did food, too.
Very limited, just a couple of panini sandwiches.
Okay.
But they also do cocktails, and I was thinking you and I maybe should go hit that.
Yes, did they have kombucha in
Yes.
the cocktails? Because I just saw that it's a new trend, hard kombucha. So was this kombucha added to other stuff, or was it?
They do have some hard cider on the menu, but they, I didn't explore the cocktail menu yet, so I see another show here.
Yeah.
With necessary research.
Return trip. I know, Jill, when I was on maternity leave, you got a chance to talk to Michael Smith about Farina.
Yes, absolutely. It was a fun podcast.
I finally made it in. Lovely ambiance, best service was impeccable, unbelievable, really good. And braised short rib was fantastic.
Do you have any oysters?
We didn't.
No.
We were
saving up?
Yeah, right. I know. We tried the pasta and some soup beforehand, a bisque, and then that, but it was good. Baby called us home early, so no dessert.
See, I wouldn't have asked you if you'd had the oysters when you were pregnant,
right.
But I figured
I should have been taking
fair
advantage
game, right?
now that I can. Now that I can. And speaking of amazing, unbelievable Italian food, Jasper, thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you very much. I get a break from the restaurant. I'm glad to be here.
Jasper, you are always so great about talking up other restaurants in Kansas City, too. Where's a favorite for you right now?
Oh, boy, that's tough. I love Asian cuisine. Waldo Thai is fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
She is really doing some different things. Northern, because I have some friends actually from Thailand, and I even asked them. She was in the restaurant a couple weeks ago from out of town. She was visiting, and I said, look at this menu. What do you think? And she said, oh yeah. She kept going, oh yeah, really? Wow, I've never seen this. Yeah, so that's a good sign. It really is. We have so many friends in the restaurant business here in town. Of course, I love barbecue, and being right across the street from Gates when they open that pit up at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah. Smells.
You can smell. Oh my God! And they're open till 11, so that's always a little tempting. Lisa and I love steakhouses, and so but we go all around. Anywhere new, we'll always try and love our Sunday brunch. That's the only time we're kind of actually together by ourselves.
His social media is definitely the thing to watch.
Yes,
so that you know what's new. He's always on top of it. I'm a little bit jealous at how quickly he moves through town. I feel like I'm chasing him sometimes.
Do you and Lisa make a calendar of places to hit up or
it's just
keep a
that
list?
Or she'll tell me something. She'll find a place and she'll say, "Hey, we have to go here." She kept wanting to go to Waldo Time. We didn't go for a while, like 3 or 4 months, which was unusual for us. And she kept reading about it and saying, "Come on, we have to go." And we'll go. And then finally we did, and it was excellent. So
there you go. And research fodder for your radio show.
Oh yeah,
as well?
Exactly. That's what I do. I love to find people, different people, different. We just saw the waffler. Well, he's the ex-waffler now, but I found him at the American Royal one time, and he was walking around with this waffle outfit on or something. I don't know what it was, and I said, "Hey, you got to come on the show." So I'm always passing out cards. I start in the morning. I got to tell you all this. I start in the morning with 10 business cards, and hopefully they'll be gone by the end of the day.
What a great strategy.
Yeah, so,
it is to find a reason.
Exactly. And build customer base that way and everything. So,
oh my goodness. If you can't tell, Jasper wears many hats. Chef at Jasper's, radio host, cookbook author, teacher. Jill, what am I missing?
All-round KC promoter.
Yes.
I'm not sure we'd be on the lists and radar, off of the flyover list.
Right.
If it wasn't for somebody like Jasper who took it on himself to really sing the praises of other people and his city.
One time we were driving to see my great nephew, and he was just born, and we were over at the house in Parkville, and I slammed the car. Wow. Oh, my wife said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Look, a new popcorn place opened up." So we had to go meet them, and then we had them on the show the following week. So kind
Your
of crazy
show
about
is
that.
jam-packed, and we should say that you have a little bit of help tracking folks down. And she's not here today because she's tracking other things down. But who's been hanging out with you for, what, a decade now?
10 years now, Miss Kimberly Stern. And believe me, I tell everybody this. I mean, she's the backbone of the show. I mean, the emails and she gets the guest on and does all the work. And I don't do the homework. I'm not going to lie to you. I got caught the other day. I got caught because I brought up the wrong thing about Joe's Kansas City Barbecue, and I was talking about the pizza and the collaboration with Minsky's, and it was the wrong interview because they'd already passed that up, and now they were on to the rocket sandwich.
Oh, the rocket pig.
Oh, yes.
And so I didn't do my homework and look at the sheets, and Doug and Kimberly both looked at me and said, And that morning, my social media was on the wrong thing, so I had to go back and change it all. And so, but believe me, Kimberly does it all. I'm not going to say she doesn't.
Well, you're moving pretty fast, and it's good to have somebody who can keep you on a leash, I think.
Exactly, because my brother doesn't even know where I'm at half the time. I tell him, look at the calendar. It's on the calendar where I'm at every day. So, but I'm very fortunate because I have so many people behind me. Kimberly is one of the major ones, and the cooks at the kitchen, and Harvey, and William, and Lawrence, and Tony Romano at the front desk at Jasper's, and Julie, and the list is endless. And my nephew of all, my nephew Jasper and his boys now. I mean, everybody's always got my back.
It's truly a family business.
It really is.
Yeah.
Dynasty almost at this point, right?
Yeah, we're very fortunate with everyone. I mean, the people who have worked for us for so many years. And then, when we lose someone, someone passes away because they've been there for, 40 years or something like that. Sammy Giannino, who was with us since 1980, who passed away the past year. And Rick Eisen in the bar. It's a very sad time, and the people come out just, for memorials. It's something else when someone, passes away at the restaurant because they're part of the family. They really are.
So take us back to the beginning. You guys are celebrating 65 years of Jasper's. What are your earliest memories?
Well, you know what? I remember when I was little going to the old restaurant on 75th Street, and I was very fortunate because Mom would let us, she would only take us there between 2 and 5.
Huh?
We never went, at dinner time. Jasper's was, especially when I was growing up, it was a little upscale. And, hanging around the kitchen, watching Manuel Cervantes, my father's first chef, who I eventually got to train with, and my nana in the kitchen at the restaurant, it doesn't get any better than that. And meeting all the old employees who were there for, again, my dad had people there for 20 and 30 years, just like we do now. But, everything was so exciting to watch, see the different silverware. A gentleman who just polished silverware at the restaurant. He still comes by today to see us. He's in his late 50s. And that was his job. He polished silverware in the afternoons.
Wow.
And see all those different things. And I'll be the first one to tell you now, we're jumping ahead, but I was the only one who was kind of against selling the restaurant and moving to 103rd Street. I didn't want to give up all those things, but the time was near, and we'll talk about that. But 65 years, it's incredible. And I always tell people, it's not me. All I do is I'm out there representing the family who runs the restaurants.
But I've always wondered, why is the restaurant named Jasper's and not Sam's or Leonard's or I'm missing another brother with...
Well, Dad, of course, was Jasper. And people say, how do you get the name Jasper? Is that Italian? Well, it's Gaspare, Gaspare. There's not a J in the Italian language. Now there is, but no one ever used a J in the Italian language before. Oh. And when my dad came here, they called him Jasper. Not, in short is Reno, Reno. So like when I'm in Italy, they call me Reno, or Aspano, Aspano is another short name for, it's like JJ. People who know me call me Jay, Jill. You know that.
Right.
They don't say Jasper all the time. They say Jay. And that's how it was. My father named the restaurant after himself. And that may have, I told Michael Smith and I had a great conversation about this. The Savoy Grill, they could sell the name Savoy Grill. Hereford House, you could sell Hereford House. Think about the old-time restaurants here in Kansas City. Michael Smith, Jasper's, Cascones, some very good friends of ours. That's our name on there, and you have to keep that name going with a family member. Now, in New Orleans, it's different. I mean, some of the big restaurants, they've sold, they've gone on and sold, but, you have our name on there. It's our stamp, and that's a good thing and a bad thing once in a while.
Is that a burden occasionally?
Well, sometimes, I mean, being where I kind of taken on where we want to check every single person that comes in that restaurant. We're hands on. Is that good or bad? Sometimes, I don't know. We call it myth, mirably in the house, MITH. So it's been a rule with our family. There's always been a mirably at that restaurant. Only one time, and we brought my wife in, who's still a mirably. I mean, come on now. She's been with me for 31 years.
Yes.
My brother Sam had a heart attack last year, so it was the first time that we were not at the restaurants.
Wow.
But we were in constant contact with her, and it was just as smooth as can be, So we have some great employees.
That keeps the detail there, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And then when you say 65 years, I was on KSHP 41 Kansas City Live last week, and when Crystal asked me, she said, 65 years. I said, wait a second, I'm not 65. Everybody keeps,
Right.
I'm only 56 now. Come on, give me a break.
So by the time you came along, it was a well-oiled machine.
Oh, yeah. And I started working, really, all the boys did when we were about 7, 8 years old. We used to cut bread. And there was a little station at the restaurant, and we would cut bread and put it in the baskets. And eventually we moved up to being a busboy. I stayed in the kitchen more. I didn't go out into the floor until I was 16 years old. I stayed back in the kitchen. All my brothers couldn't wait to get out of the kitchen. Sam and Leonard and Jim. And Sam and James worked all through college, and then eventually went on with their own careers. And Leonard and I stayed in the business.
So cooking, when did you know that was where you wanted to head?
I really think
that this business you did.
I really think that when I was 8 years old, my mom used to say my brother Sam knew he wanted to be an attorney when he was 6 years old. He had a birthday cake. It was a law book. My brother Jim wanted to be a doctor when he was young, since he was 6 years old. Leonard, I don't know. I never asked Leonard about that. I think Leonard fell into the business. But myself, I knew I loved to cook when I was younger. Watching Nana sit there with 8 or 10 ingredients and put them all together, and then we had this big grand dinner, at 5 o'clock. It was something else to watch.
And your mom is still bossing you around.
Oh, yeah, Mama's still around. Mama's 90 years old. Mom knows everything about the restaurant. She gets a report every morning, every night. She comes in on Thursdays. She walks in. She tells the bartender it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It could be 3 o'clock when she gets there, and she'll tell the bartender it's 5 o'clock somewhere. They know
She's earned it, right?
Yeah, she gets her Bloody Mary, and she sits down. And
She reminds me so much of my dear late Nana. Yeah, same thing. It must be happy hour somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You must cook this perfectly. No cutting corners.
No.
And
it's
make it by hand.
It's funny you said that, because the night of the 65th anniversary, she called William King out of the kitchen, and she said, "Can someone get William?" And William came over to the table, and he thought something was the matter. I did too. And I was kind of like, "What's the matter, Mom?" And she tasted the custard that was in the cake. We call it custard. It's Italian pastry cream. And she said, "William, this is just as good as mine." And he goes, "Oh, my God, Miss Joe, I thought you were going to complain and say something was the matter with it." So he's been on a little high since then. We say, "Oh, William, you can't do anything wrong right now."
Stamp of approval.
Exactly.
Is the restaurant made of a mix of her recipes, all family before her, and where did that come from?
We like to say something old, something new, but I got to watch myself when I say it, because then people think old food or something like that. But old recipes. Nana, my grandmother, which my mom is called Nana Josephine too, and my grandmother's name was Nana Josephine, my dad's mom. So, but grandma's recipes, a lot of the recipes, like for the Italian sausage, is my grandfather's recipe, and Leonard perfected it. My dad had a chef named Manuel Cervantes, and Manuel started at the restaurant. He used to work at, I'm thinking the name of, I think it was Patsy's here in Kansas City. And in 1954, he came to work for my father and stayed. I was his pallbearer in 1985.
Wow.
But he was at the restaurant until, I think, in the late 70s. And a lot of the recipes are his. There's some recipes that we tried to keep, kind of secret, that was just for Jasper's. And he did a lot of those working with my father. My father would see a dish and bring it back, and then they would perfect it. Because my dad was not a chef. My dad cooked, but my dad was not a chef.
Sure. Wait, what made him go, "I'm going to open up a restaurant then?"
He kind of fell into it. My grandpa had a bar on 12th Street, 12th and Troost, called the Lucky Tavern. And my dad came home from school. My dad played football in college out at St. Mary's. And he came back to Kansas City, and he didn't want my dad at this bar. He didn't want my grandpa at this bar. And he out at bar. and my dad opened up a place. Well, he didn't open it; he bought a place called the Ship. If you've heard about that,
Yes.
actually,
Little history here.
Jill edited the article on that last year about the Ship, and he had it for 2 years, and then he sold it to buy 75th and Warnell.
Wow.
It was a little restaurant called Rose's Tavern. It had 12 tables. I have the original picture. We did not have it out that night. We'd forgotten to put it out that night of the 65th anniversary. But it was just an old wooden door and just a small little bar and tables. And Nana used to cook in the kitchen, her and my mom. And my mom would make hard-boiled eggs and put them on the bar, and she'd get about $3 or $4 a week off that. And that was like a big deal back then. I'll never forget my dad said the first week they did $1,200. And he said, Joe, if we can keep this up, he said, this place is going to go. And that was a lot of money back in 1954. Now, and then, having 15 or 20 customers, every hour come in. Now, if we open at 5 o'clock and we don't have 50 people waiting on weekends, we're upset. Something's the matter. What did we do wrong this week? But as the restaurant went on, my father just kept, adding on, buying another part of the building, and eventually he bought the corner of 75th and Warnell. And then in 1962, when I was born, was a major remodeling. 65. I think it's 1967 was the big remodeling where it kind of came on, where he put the tablecloths down and more of the decor, hired a gentleman by the name of Frank Papin, who designed the new restaurants at that time.
And so that's when you became sort of a fine dining restaurant?
I think so. Kansas City, was Bretton's at the time and a couple other restaurants here in Kansas City, but no one was really doing any kind of tableside at the time. And he started doing tableside Caesar, tableside pasta. We had 12 carts that we had in the kitchen. The kitchen was huge at the other restaurants.
I remember that.
Oh, my gosh. You remember the old restaurant. We were, and 12 carts, and we would bring the cart up to the table, and they would toss the pastas in front of you and then plate them. So the cooks put everything in these copper pans, and then they would be plated in front of the customer. So we had captains, we had servers, we had assistant waiters, and busboys on the floor.
So much about the experience. I love
exactly,
that.
Exactly.
And you do a lot of tableside stuff now, right?
Well, we only do one really main dish, and that's the tableside mozzarella, which was kind of like a shot in the arm in 2008.
Very brilliant. How did you tell us the story?
So,
I've made this with you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
also heard you speak about it a few times at different luncheons, but it was kind of a brilliant idea.
Lisa and I were in Italy, and I had been to this place before in Naples with my nephew, and we went back. It's called La Bufala, and we were watching a gentleman make tableside cheese, but he wasn't doing it tableside. He had a beautiful cart, but he had his back to the dining room. So again, I asked the server, I said, what is he doing over there? And he said, he's making cheese. Like, big deal. What's he doing? I said, well, can I take a picture? And, Italians, you bring a camera out and they're ready. And he started posing. And I sent my nephew the photo and I said, we got to build this cart. I said, it's going to be easy. And we'll bring the curds from the kitchen and we'll just make cheese. The first night we did it, I'll never forget, it was July the 6th. And I had my mom, my sister-in-law, my wife, and my daughter at a table. I put them in the middle of the dining room, and I made the cheese about 5 times so they can kind of let other people around us see us making it, ask them what, we didn't have it on the menu. It was just going to be my nightly special to see how it went. And from that day on, it took off. My daughter always hollers that when she comes in town that, she said, it's a shame. She said, we never get tableside cheese. We always get our cheese from the kitchen because I don't have time to go up to their table and make it any longer. But it's been the biggest thing that ever happened at the restaurant. June, July, and August are horrible months in the restaurant business. Sales just go down. I mean, it's not like we're not a destination restaurant, but it's not like nothing really happens during the summertime for our kind of place. And adding the tomatoes and then working with our local farmers, that was a big deal also.
Curl bombs.
Yeah, and that was a big deal, adding the curl bombs to the table side, because now people wait. I mean, the last 2 weeks of July and all of August, it's like a zoo there, and it's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
And you do some dinners at Curl Bombs with Michael Smith, correct?
I do. I do one dinner a year with Michael Smith, and I do one dinner on my own also. We've already set the dates, as a matter of fact. They can go on the Curl Bombs website and look at that. And what a great time we have.
And the Curl Bombs have an interesting story and an interesting piece of land, which
they really do. I mean, you talk about family. I mean, and it's Mrs. Curl Bomb's family. It used to be an apple orchard. And now they planted the apple trees back again there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and now the husband, Mr. Kurlbaum, of course, an attorney here in town. All the kids work there. The money goes towards a KU scholarship fund. So, I mean, you talk about giving back. That's something else.
It's just also located in such an interesting spot. When I was using my GPS to get there, it's in KCK. I don't know where I was, and I don't know how I got there. You're in this neighborhood, and then all of a sudden you take this road, and you're like, should I go down that road?
Unbelievable.
And then you're in this field that has a view of the city that is unbelievable.
So you've been to the top of the hill where you can look down like over Parkville area?
Yes.
Unbelievable. You think you're back in Europe or something. Really, you think you're in Italy. I said it about being in Somerset Ridge Winery.
Yeah.
You know, when you're there and looking at the rolling hills, picking grapes, same thing with picking tomatoes. The first time I went, everybody knows I'm not the best driver with directions. Mrs. Kurlbaum catches me at a neighbor's house. She said, "What are you doing?" I had my white polo shirt on, the pressed jeans, and she's just laughing. I said, "Is this a tomato farm?" I had like 40, maybe 20 plants in this guy's backyard. She said, "I knew it was your car. I knew you were at the wrong place. Follow me." I was in some guy's backyard picking tomatoes.
Oh, you're kidding.
Mrs. Kurlbaum will tell you more about that story.
Oh, my goodness. So when is your next dinner there? Is it set for the year yet?
I think it's July. Well, we're doing our big dinner July 29th at Jasper's. It's called The Return of the Killer Tomatoes. And that's usually just a 5-course tomato dinner. And then I go out to the farm, which I think is August the 3rd, and I cook at the farm along with Michael Smith, and we always do a great dinner. Michael and I have become great friends, cooking side by side, and we have more fun in the kitchen. Someone should be back in the kitchen taping that with Michael and I.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure that we could run it without a lot of
Oh, yeah,
bleeps,
exactly,
though,
exactly,
however.
exactly.
But I want to ask you about the mozzarella because, as my grandma, my nana used to say, mozzarella.
Mozzarella. I say it. Leonard always says I pronounce it wrong, but mozzarella.
Mozzarella. But nobody knows what we're talking about. So you have actually taken me through the steps, and we've done a demo before that we were filming for Facebook Live, and you were showing me not only mozzarella, but tell our listeners what else you get after. What's the process here? And then there are 2 other cheeses you
Exactly.
can get
We call
out
it
of
mozzarella 2.0. And mozzarella 2.0 was the next part of our making the tableside mozzarella, where you start with the fresh curds. You bring them to 90 degrees. You add boiling water. You let it sit for about a minute or so, and then you start working the curds. After you work the curds and form the mozzarella ball, then the leftovers you recook. Now I'm saying the leftover way, W-H-E-Y. The leftovers is called ricotta because that means to recook in Italian. Cotta means to cook in Italian, so you ricotta. And that's what you put in your lasagna and your ravioli and your cannelloni and cannolis, of course.
Never, ever cottage cheese.
No. I'll tell you, you got to remind me to tell you that story in a minute about cottage cheese.
Okay.
And a little thing at St. Thomas More School when I was 10 years old. But I make the ricotta cheese, and then the mozzarella, also the leftovers, which you have almost like a stracciatella. The stracciatella are the little rags, the little scraps that are left over. You put that inside the mozzarella, and you have burrata.
That's what burrata is.
But burrata really means butter in Italian.
I just know I like it.
But it's creamy like butter. Exactly.
Yes.
The first burrata came, I went to the hometown with my slow food group of Marianne Vandenberg back this past October to Bari, Italy, where Mola di Bari, where they say it was invented at. And what it was really was a piece of butter inside, encased in the fresh mozzarella, and you slice it. But even in that town now, I mean, people don't really accept that as burrata anymore. They have the burrata the way we make it. And what I always tell people, you have to let the burrata sit out for 15, 20 minutes. And it becomes warm and creamy, almost like a lava cake when you cut into it.
A lava cheesecake.
Oh, yeah. But I got to tell you guys about St. Thomas More.
You need to tell us about that.
And cottage cheese.
Oh, my God. So I'm in a cooking class, an elective class, and I'm only 10 years old. And Mrs. Jarling, a dear lady who came to Kimberly had her on the show one time. She surprised me with her as a guest. She looked her up and called her. She was teaching this elective class, and the first day we're making lasagna. And I see all the ingredients, and she starts making it. I said, Miss Jarling, I raised my hand. I said, what's the matter? I said, you can't use cottage cheese. She said, yes, you do. I said, no, you use ricotta. She said, no, we use cottage cheese. I'm not eating that, I'll tell you right now.
It's an Americanization that some of us cannot accept.
And a lot of people in St. Louis, I remember Sam Janino used to say that. Yeah. A lot of restaurants in St. Louis use cottage cheese.
It just doesn't have the same flavor at
No,
all.
the flavor and the creaminess
And
of
the
the
texture,
ricotta.
yeah.
Texture's
So, and
completely
we've been using the same ricotta cheese now since 1965, Grande cheese.
And
The
where does that come
same
from? Who
Grande
makes
comes.
that?
Well, actually, it's on the border. It's Wisconsin and Illinois. So actually, it's in Illinois, but it's part of the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board too, or Milk Marketing Products.
So when you're doing mozzarella, so I came in one time and we almost got someone else to do our
Oh, yeah,
mozzarella.
yeah,
but
yeah.
then
Come
you came
on.
running over, but which is great. But it's such a show.
Exactly.
And how many people in the restaurant?
Only
can
two
do
people
the
make mozzarella, my
show?
nephew and myself. And I feel bad for Jay, and I always tell him this because they'll say, we wanted Jasper. Well, he is Jasper. That's his name also. He's the next generation. We call him 3J. Everybody calls him 3 around the restaurant. But when I'm out of town or if I'm somewhere, Jay will make it. And actually, I'm going to tell you something. The mozzarella is better when Jay makes it because he's not talking 20 minutes to the customer and they can get through their work and get through the dining room and let people eat. I get stuck at a table. So now we have something new we're doing. Actually, Jay will start it off. He'll get the curds ready. He'll put the boiling water in, do the first step. I come over, I do the final stretch, and then put it into the mozzarella ball now for the customers.
Oh, that's what you
Yeah,
did for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you did start it out, and then there was a switch in the middle, and I thought, uh-oh.
No,
That was
he-
on purpose.
What did I do?
No, and he goes to the next table and starts the next one. This way we can get, it's a little, we used to be, I'll take that one, or I'll take we have the patio dining, and we have the main dining room and the side room. So usually we'll switch what rooms we're doing that night.
But people want you, Jasper.
I know they do.
And that's no slight on your nephew, but
No.
So the next generation.
I know, that's what I'm
how
trying to
do
say.
we do this?
I almost told Jay to come down here today with us, but someone's got to be at the restaurant. So I always think about that. How do you pass the baton, to the next generation? And it's very easy right now because believe me, when I was at the restaurant this morning, I didn't feel that well because I had fell at the restaurant on Friday nights, and Jay opened up for me, which is wow. He called. He sent me a text that Uncle Jay, I'm opening. Take your time this morning. I said, I'm taking my time. Believe me. But he does everything at the restaurant. I mean, he makes the cheese. He opens up in the morning. My father, he told me this the other night. We were having a talk by ourselves, and he said, Uncle Jay, he said, I'll never forget what my father taught me, and I'm sure Papa taught you. You learn every single station in this restaurant. From busboy to washing dishes to making the cheese to working in the office, and he does, and that's in the background. If people know who come by and they're in the office hanging around or something, they know that's who's running the restaurant. Jay and Leonard. I'm the showman out front. I'm P.T. Barnum out front.
Well, but that's an important piece of what's
Oh, yeah.
been going on, and you're so good at talking to
No,
people.
thank you.
That's a gift. It is.
Lindsay and I were talking about that earlier.
I
so.
mean, to just be that approachable in itself, and then to go out of your way to make friends with everybody in the dining room, that makes people want to come back.
And that's part of it. When I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, I in the restaurant school, that was a big part of my education was the marketing and advertising. The cooking I got down. I didn't pay much attention to some things, and I wish now I kind of look back and, my dad always said, know every station. So sometimes I have to let the guys do some things. Today they're making homemade biscottis.
Ooh.
And they make them better than me. So I'm not hands-on with the biscottis in the kitchen. But I know I love talking to people. I love being out there in front. It's not an ego thing or anything like that. I just like being around people. I can't sit down. I'll be at the pool on vacation. I'm talking to people. Hey, I even bring cards on vacation. I hate to say it. Lisa said, how many times do you meet people when you're on vacation?
I was going to ask, does she love this part, or does she get a little weary of this part?
She just looks at me and just shakes her head. She does.
We were talking about how marketing is so important, and for so many small businesses and restaurants, it's really difficult because it has to be organic, and you have to keep it up, and the frequency is important. And what I think is so great about yours is you are yourself. So much of everything you put out there is so personal, and that makes people respond to it.
And I've been keeping notes, and I'm trying to write something a little bit different. I know we're working on the third cookbook right now, and we'll talk about that. But all about marketing for your restaurant. And the first thing I tell people is social media, but never talk about politics, number one. Any way you look at the country is divided 50-50. So I knew a gentleman who was selling some desserts one time, and all he kept doing was hollering about this, someone who was running for president, and the company actually closed because people get mad. They don't want to hear about politics, not when you're talking about food. So that's number one. Number two, even watching what you say, but you know what? Always think about someone else. And, if I go somewhere and I eat a great cheeseburger at the Snack Shack on Santa Fe, I'm going to write about it and tell people about it. I'm not a great writer, I'll tell you that. I have a lot of people behind me, and my brother Sam, who's an attorney, calls me constantly, along with Greg Frost this morning from Hen House, and said, "Hey, foil is spelled Foil, not Fouil." So they catch me all the time.
But you're using one of those programs you shared with me. What is
Oh,
it,
yeah,
where
yeah,
you
yeah.
speak into
I speak
it?
into it.
Oh,
I used to think it was cool. My brother Jim, is an OBGYN, and he always, at the end of the day, I'd be with him at the hospital, visit him, and he'd go and do his notes, and he'd just talk into the, I forgot what the phone was called, for the doctors, they always did, and the lawyers.
Dictaphone.
Dictaphones back in the day, And so when I got it on my phone, I said, "Hey, I could do that." So anybody who gets my emails or my text or my recipes, Miss Kimberly Stern does a lot of correcting. She won't even correct me in person anymore. She doesn't even do it
I
anymore.
think it's just a lot of deciphering because
Exactly.
I also edited some of the things that you would write for the blog for the Kansas City Star, and it would just be some funny words.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's like Siri, it just
Yeah.
transposes
Exactly.
some weird stuff.
It's kind of like I send you some notes now about cannoli at 12 o'clock at night, and I'm laying in bed or something. I'll get an idea. Boom! I got to get my phone out and send some notes out.
And so, why are you sending me notes on cannoli? We should probably reveal
Exactly.
the
that.
king of cannoli in Kansas City.
I might be working with Jasper on something.
Jill and Kimberly Stern are working on the cannoli trail. My adventures looking for the world's greatest cannoli.
And how did this obsession start?
So, it started when I was a little boy because my nana made the best cannolis and she used to fry those shells and all. And then when I went to Italy, it was by accident with my nephew. We're in Sicily and we get off the plane and I immediately, we call him my handler when he's with me on the trips. And I don't carry any money with me, just my ID. And Jay kind of just walks behind me in here. I'll take care of that for him, and because my mind's always going. And I'm eating a cannoli at the and talking, having an espresso right when you get off the plane in Italy and you go straight to the little bar in the airport. And I'm having my, you hear all the spoons clinging and everything. And I just go straight there, have a cannoli. Then we get on the bus with our group and we stop at the on the Autostrada. We stop at the little restaurant and we have a cup of coffee and have another cannoli. We got to the hotel, and they had a beautiful little pastry shop right there. And I'm having a cannoli that night for desserts. And my nephew said, "Uncle Jay," says, "What is with the cannolis?" I said, "Jay," and it clicked. I said, "We're on the cannoli trail." And ding, ding. I
Love
said,
it.
"That'll be the theme of our Sicilian trip. We'll go looking for the greatest cannoli." It's a little long story, and I'm going to cut it short. And it's in the end, back of the cookbook, which I brought you one today, Lindsay. Jill already has a couple copies.
A little reference material.
But the last night we were there, my cousin was there with us the whole trip in Sicily. He lives in Jubilina, and he gave us a little box. And we go up to the room. My nephew, he always gives my nephew these little candies he likes, these little gel candies. And my nephew says, "Open the box up." I said, "No, we'll open it later." My cousin and I have a little thing. We never say goodbye. I hate the word goodbye. When you say goodbye, it means maybe you not see him again or something, So I just turned and walked away and brought this box up into the room. My nephew, if you ever go to Europe and you see how they tie things with string, it's like 100 pieces of string around a box to bring home. So my nephew gets a scissors or a knife or something, opens it up, and there's a cannoli with a little note in it and said, "You've traveled all through Sicily looking for the world's greatest cannoli, but you never asked your cousin for his."
Oh, wow.
And it kind of brought a tear, in my eye and tasted it. And so I've kind of given the secret away to the book, where's the world's greatest cannoli. There were others,
Well, and
but
you're
the meaning
creating
behind
many.
that one, yeah, but that one right there was unbelievable.
Wow.
Sitting there eating a cannoli with a tear in my eyes. It's midnight. My nephew says, "Go to bed, Uncle Jay. We got to catch a plane in 4 hours." So, but it's going to be a great book. A lot of exciting new recipes.
Well, you just have a cannoli for every occasion. Go through some
Yes.
of the things that, Lindsay, you probably remember this when the Royals were in the World Series. There was
Yes.
a
Blue cannoli, which you never do blue. You never cook with blue food.
never blue food.
No.
You have a cannoli. Well, you had an Oreo cannoli. You had
We
a
do Oreo, the
cherry.
Kansas City Chiefs cannoli, the golden cannoli we did for the Kansas City Chiefs. We did an anniversary cannoli for our 65th anniversary. I'll do Captain Crunch Crunch Berries, which is really good. The cannoli, chocolate chip, limoncello. You like limoncello? I should have
Who
brought you
doesn't?
limoncello today.
I tell you what. So do you just sit around and think that would be good enough?
Oh yeah, and I look for collaborations like with Christopher Elbow. I did a Christopher Elbow chocolate. What's the name of the Panache? Does chocolate dipped strawberries? Did a chocolate dipped strawberry cannoli. So the list. Think about the list is endless, and savory ones.
Oh, really?
And then you get into the cannoli. I'm kind of crazy. Then you get into the cannoli cakes.
Yes.
And then a cannoli cookie I thought about last night. Get 2 cookies, make an ice cream sandwich out of. Put the cannoli ice cream in the middle. I make cannoli gelato,
What does that taste like? Just
like a cannoli.
creamy and delightful?
Yeah, it really does.
Little bits
Now
of
I'm hungry.
the
On the
shell in
I
there?
brought you cannolis. Don't worry. You have cannolis. You have some sandwiches in a little sack over there.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we need to get out the cannoli and just look at them because we're talking
Exactly.
about it. Hold on. I'm taking the headphones off. Continue. I'm getting the cannoli.
All right, we'll let Lindsay do that, and we'll keep talking cannoli. So, these recipes, where do you get your inspiration?
So I'll look at something. The other day I saw. You ever read on Facebook, or even the books are out now? Tasty.
Oh yeah,
I love those tasty videos.
Tasty
They really are
videos.
cool. So
They are
you
very
get a little inspiration from there once in a while. But if I see an old dish, something that dates back, I love iconic recipes. And let's say you see a pound cake. Why couldn't you make a pound cake and fill it with cannolis? And if you think about it, a cream puff, instead of a regular cream puff and the chantilly custard or the Italian pastry cream, put ricotta filling in the middle of it. Buddy Valestro just last night made Zeppelis on his TV show, and he filled them with cannoli filling.
What is cannoli filling, by the
So
way?
cannoli filling is ricotta cheese, powdered sugar, and then it's up to you what you want to put in. Chopped chocolate bits, candied orange peel. It's funny, my sister-in-law's family in Sicily, they don't put the candied fruit in theirs. They're from a little town called Scusa Scropani. It's not too far. It's like Overland Park compared to downtown Kansas City. Not even that far, probably.
Okay.
But my family's town, they put this little bit of candied fruit in there. A little touch of cinnamon. I'll tell the secret. I use cinnamon oil, not cinnamon, the powdered cinnamon, because the powdered cinnamon will give it a brownish color. It's not the same flavor.
Okay.
My nana used to put a touch of clove in hers.
Oh,
Just a touch of clove oil
Warm.
or pistachio oil in there. A lot of people put pistachios on the outside, but we don't put nuts in ours. And that's one thing. It's kind of like our pesto sauce. 20 years I've been making the pesto sauce. No nuts. Not one customer has ever said, I don't taste the pinoli nuts. You don't need them in there.
wow.
Now, is it authentic? I always talk about being authentic. Is it authentic? Well, I think it is. But the cannolis, when you go to Sicily, I'll put this cannoli up against any cannoli in Sicily, the shell and all. And we whip the filling. Now, my brother Leonard's tough on this, and he tests Lawrence a couple times a week. He'll time him to see how long. It has to stay at least 15 minutes on the mixer.
Oh, wow.
Is this your best-selling dessert?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt, especially National Cannoli Month. You know about that, don't you, Lindsay?
Oh, yes. I've seen your posts about it.
September. I remember one time I came into the studio here with a cart, and I had a cart like tableside cart, and I was doing 20 different fill-ins, mix-ups, and I have a bowl of ricotta, and you tell me what you want in there, and then we'll fill them up onto the little cannoli pastry itself.
That's fun. That's a fun
It's a
experience.
little obsession, I think.
That's because everything I know about cannoli is just from seeing what you've posted about
And
it. It's so fun.
I thought about this the other day. I said, when I pass away or something, and I go on that grave, will be a big cannoli shell,
Perfect.
Exactly. That's kind of weird to talk about that.
He was the big cannoli.
I dressed as a cannoli. You remember that for Halloween? I had the cannoli outfit. I came down here
Yes.
back in, that was 12, 14 years ago.
We talk about marketing. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I had a Halloween costume. My daughter made it.
Oh, that's so fun.
There's a really fun side to what you do, but there's also a really serious side, and we haven't talked about slow food and your connection to that, and just some of the dishes that you do that you've been doing for all these years that aren't necessarily but
Exactly.
preserving the traditions. Not that cannolis
Sure.
shouldn't be exciting; they are, but
I don't know why cannoli isn't part of the part of what they call the ARC,
The Arc of
A-R-C,
Taste.
Arc of Taste. But in 1999, I was on an airplane going to Italy with my friend Roberto Donna, one of the top chefs in America from Washington D.C.
yeah, I've interviewed him.
and from
He came
Galileo.
here,
Exactly.
yeah.
You were at the old restaurant. We had a big dinner with Roberto, and we traveled together every year for a long time, going back and forth to Italy. And he had on a little snail on his lapel. And I asked him, I said, Roberto, what's the snail for? And he started telling me about slow food. And immediately, and we're going to Italy, we're going to Torino anyway, his hometown. So that's kind of where slow food actually started. A lot of people say it started in Rome with Carlo Petrini because they put a McDonald's, and nothing against McDonald's or fast food. We don't talk about politics. But he didn't want a McDonald's to go on by the Spanish Steps. you have all these old traditional restaurants, and they didn't want it. Kind of like what's happening with the new Starbucks in Italy right now. They're supposed to open up 18 more Starbucks in Italy, and you have all these little mom and pop places. So slow food really is really not only respect of the land, but preserving ingredients and preserving dishes. And then it became a little political with Carlo Petrini. They're very strong in the parliament in Italy right now. They even have their own. It's like we have Democrats, Republicans. They have the slow food representative there.
Oh, wow.
So it has come along a long way. I came back home and I was already with the not the La Dames. I always say La Dames. I was with the Food and Wine International Food and Wine Society here in Kansas City, and I took a couple of those members, George Vessel, myself, Marianne Vandenberg. We called up Lydia Bastianich, and she had just opened up here, and I said, "Can you help us do a dinner?" She said, "I'd love to. I'll come in town for it." We did our first dinner at Lydia's, and we had 170 people show up. She made risotto. I got in front of everybody on the microphone. I said, "I don't know how this lady did it. I wouldn't make risotto for 10 people at one time, let alone 170 people." And that was kind of the kickoff at that time.
And so slow food just basically is trying to preserve.
Exactly. And you preserve, it's everything against fast food, but really it's what you do is you want to preserve all the dishes. You know, there may be a pistachio from Bronte. They want to preserve that because who knows, in 50 years, it may not be to those plants. Right now, the olives in Puglia, I just got back from Puglia in Bari, and the olives are almost destroyed. They've lost trees that date back to the 13th century.
Oh, wow.
And they're gone. So if it wasn't for slow food, who keeps these arc of taste items, then we wouldn't have these dishes to pass on, these ingredients to pass on to our children.
And the best way to keep these ingredients, I've heard over and over from chefs, is that we have to eat them.
You do, and it's
which seems counterintuitive.
Right. Exactly,
preserve
but it's kind of like it's kind of like beef. It's kind of like the cows, or people say, oh, you're against someone who's against that, the slaughter and everything like that. We don't want to talk about those things, but if you don't keep it going, then you're not going to have it here again. The poultry, the chickens, the turkeys, just like Frank Reese here in town. Well, not here in town, but from Lindsborg, Kansas.
Right. So
same thing.
Heritage breed turkeys and chickens.
And that's a big part of the heritage foods. It's a big part of slow food. Mm-hmm. It really is.
You have to keep the demand up to keep it around.
Exactly. I remember when you and I went to Lindsborg, Kansas. Was that back in 2008?
It's a long time ago. 2007. I have no idea.
Right before Brian Ensemble, who actually worked there, a good friend of mine, Brian passed away. He was running the farm with Frank, and we went to a church dinner.
We did. That was really a fun day.
Yeah, we had 4 courses, but each course was like a complete dinner.
But a different chicken breed. So
Wow.
you would taste the difference between the different chickens. And what we've kind of lost with industrialization is the idea that each one tastes a little different, and depending on how old it is also makes a difference. So some are better for frying, some are better for stewing. We don't even think about stewing chicken, pretty much.
Exactly.
And in each one of these little breeds had a different flavor to them, which we've pretty much lost with sort of a hybridization of, consistency, that full meaty chicken that we're trying to get out there to everyone because we eat a lot of chicken. But Frank's doing some really cool work, and I had completely forgotten about that.
Because he was always doing the turkey, but then he started doing the chickens.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a long time.
I think it was around 2007 or so.
You have a better memory for
dates
than I do, for sure.
But, here's the whole thing behind that. We want to preserve those recipes, those ingredients, because, like I always say, our grandchildren won't have them. They can't taste it. And that's, I think, where my collaboration started with other restaurants. Someone who comes out like Michael Smith is doing these such unique pastas right now, these little caramellas. You don't see them anywhere. And things like that where you're bringing back the old, I love the iconic dishes, the old style recipes. I'm always reading books, researching to bring back, an old style, kind of like with the table side, but the peppered steaks, the Caesar salads, and finding out the history. And that's kind of what slow food also does. You bring back the history of a dish and where it came from and where it actually started. Cannoli shells. There's a lady in Sicily, we walked 1 mile to her home. To her store, to taste the cannoli shell, and supposedly the best cannoli shell in the world, and I thought it was. And her secret, she gave me her secret in the back room. How about that?
Wow.
Did it taste differently than what you had tasted before?
I found out why you have so many little holes. I'm pointing. I wish you were here with us right now. Because I'm
We've got
pointing
a pile of cannolis.
Go to the gram, left pictures of the cannolis.
Well, the reason a lot of shells are very, very smooth and some are has a bunch of holes in them.
Little pock marks.
Exactly. And that is depending on what you put in there. You could put wine. A lot of people put wine in there or just water in your dough. But if you put vinegar in it, the vinegar, the acidity pops them and you'll get 1,000 little holes on each one.
And that's a good thing because
That's
it
a
gives
good
you more
thing.
texture.
Exactly. That's what you want. You want to be lighter. So
Oh, that's
it
fascinating.
makes a difference. Yeah. So little things like that.
I need to take a better picture of the holes on the side.
So you had mentioned Lydia Bastianich.
Oh, yes.
And I think when she came to town, I remember everybody going, oh my gosh, what does Jasper think about that? Competition, this New York chef comes into town. Also, when I was writing about Farina, I called you up to talk about Michael Smith, and everybody's like, wow, they're friends? So
Sure.
talk a little bit about the Italian cooking community and how you guys get along.
Well, Lydia and I go way back. She took me to her hometown in 1991 with a group called GRI, Gruppo Ristoratore Italiani. And she kind of took me in after my father died. We went back to Italy again on a trip, and she took me around, her and Tony May. And I was kind of lost. You know, I'd never been to Italy by myself. You know, here I am 34 years old. I had never been to Italy by myself. And she took me around, showed me the different restaurants, different places to go to, and I have a lot of respect for her. And bringing her coming to Kansas City, that's the best thing that can happen. I mean, it's like having everybody thinks of Kansas City as barbecue, which I'm obsessed with and love it, and barbecue and steaks. But who would think that this famous restaurateur would come to Kansas City in the Crossroads, in that building, which was just dead, that building?
It was a big mud puddle.
Oh, my
when
God.
we actually went to, we talked about this when she had her press conference
Exactly.
to say, I'm going to, now look at it.
What are you crazy? And I told her this. You know, when she came to Kansas City the first time, you know, we went to the plaza. She looked at the plaza, and I said, if you're going to go somewhere, the plaza, that's kind of, you know, where you need to be, Midtown or close in that area. When she announced that she was going downtown, it was like the biggest shock to me. But that's the best thing that can happen. You have more restaurants. It's kind of like, I remember being back in Waldo, and I'm not going to mention any names, but when we opened up the Trattoria, which was next to Jasper's, and some of the merchants said, oh my God, here, we don't need another restaurant here. You guys, when I went to the Merchants Association meeting, how do you think the plaza was built? Hula hands only? No. You have a variety of restaurants.
Choices.
It's even like on 103rd Street when they put Taco Bell in the parking lot in our building. You know what? Believe it or not, more people will come to the area. You have a McDonald's, you have that, you have Southside. So it just creates more traffic. And that's the same thing with the restaurants. With Michael Smith, it's modern Italian cuisine. I don't care if it wasn't the modern. I mean, even if it was old school, like Cascones, who are dear friends of my parents and my mama. But we all get along because it's not really competition. It really isn't. I mean, there's enough room for everybody, believe me.
You all love the same thing?
Exactly.
I didn't know how close. I didn't know about the Cascone connection.
Oh, yeah.
Until I went to a screening of a movie. That
And they
we
were there.
involved
They
with.
were there
And they
for-
were there, and they were sitting next to me, and they're going, "How do you know Jasper?"
Oh,
It's the
V-Dan.
cutest thing.
And Miss Cascone, she calls my mother every morning. She checks on my mom.
Oh.
But such dear people. And, you know, it's just like with John David DiCapo, the same thing. He makes our cookies right now. I
Really?
slipped. I just said cannoli cookies. I shouldn't have let that out of the bag.
It's
Cannoli cookie. Yeah, that's another story.
just need a cannoli food
But
truck.
but that's what it's all about, you know. I mean, you support Anthony's, these other restaurants. They have great dishes, and I mean, you can't go to a steakhouse every night. You can't eat barbecue every night. So we all work together. You should work together.
Especially in a town that does have a rich Italian community.
Exactly, and that's kind of what's the problem that we have in Kansas City. Everybody just used to go to the north end or the north, you know, up north. They used to say for Italian cuisine, but then little by little, everything started closing down in that area there. And when the North End restaurant opened up, that's great. It's a nice shot in the arm for the North End in that area. And some of the I wish we had our bakery back down there, you know. And one of the ladies started making cookies, but it was just too much for them. They have a bakery just for cookies.
And that's where most of the Italians who came to
Exactly,
the United
Northeast.
States and came to Kansas City, that's where they.
Down by Holy Rosary. I go down there every year for the St. Joseph Day table.
Oh, your
And,
pictures of that are always so
oh my
incredible.
God, it's so beautiful. Gloria Pizzichino and the ladies, they do such a beautiful job. I compliment them. I went to Sicily 5 years ago for St. Joseph Day week, and I will put their table against any table I had. Went to New Orleans. to 18 different tables, and I'll still put Kansas City against any one of these tables around the country.
If somebody's never heard of a St. Joseph State table, it's something to see. What would you say it is?
San Giuseppe, it's just a beautiful table with all this different food for the spring, of course, because it's March 19th, and they were coming out of the famine in Italy, and this was their way of paying respect back to when they prayed to God, and they said, please, and they prayed to St. Joseph of all, please get us out of this famine, and they built this table, and they still use the breadcrumbs on the pasta, which the breadcrumbs represent the shavings of St. Joseph the carpenter.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big thing. You have to have those shavings, even if you don't like them. Even my wife, I don't want to take. I said you have to have a bite of it. Just it's tradition.
Is that traditional here? Because my nana grew up in New York State, and I had never heard about that until I moved here.
So you must remember when Italians came to America, a lot of Italians went to up north on the East Coast. They came in through Ellis Island. My grandparents came in actually through Louisiana. So they were there down south. You came in either through Louisiana. Some went up north. My other grandparents, my mama's parents, actually came in through Ellis Island. They have the boat. They came over and all that information. But a lot came down south, went through Louisiana. Then they traveled up to Pittsburgh, Kansas. That's why you have Italian places, the fried chicken places. They serve pasta in them. That's why, because those are Italian families. Palooka's grocery store in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
I didn't
Huge.
know
Used to be a huge Italian grocery store, sure. Big Italian population down there. That was the coal miners. And then they would work their way up to Kansas City. And we always say that's another big thing about our sauces. Our sauces are a little sweeter here in Kansas City. Because, and if you're up on the East Coast, it's a little more, maybe oregano or something like that. It's not.
Oh, my grandma hated oregano.
Oh, we talked about that many times.
Just
many
hated
times.
it.
No,
I don't know
never.
why, but she
I'm the
just
same way.
would not put that in her sauce.
Same
Which
thing.
we should say sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday sauce. What is that?
Sundays.
Sunday sauce or sugu. We don't call it gravy. My cousins on the East Coast do call it gravy, though. The Lombardinos in New Jersey still say gravy. I'll never forget my mom saying the first time she went to New York after on their honeymoon to meet the cousins up there. They said, tomorrow we're going to have pasta and gravy. And my mom said, oh, my God, we're going to have like a brown sauce on the pasta,
Well, and I told you this, macaroni.
Macaroni.
Macaron.
Yeah.
is what
We
my-
always called it macaroni.
Yeah, and I had in my head the stuff that comes out of the box, the craft.
No.
And then Nana's putting, a plate of pasta in front of me. I'm like, oh.
And it wasn't big about cuts, too. When we were younger, it wasn't about spaghetti, mostaccioli, angel hair, linguine, fettuccine, all the different
Rigatoni.
cuts. Yeah, rigatoni. My dad, matter of fact, I don't think we ever, very rarely had spaghetti in our house. Rarely did we have spaghetti. It was mostly mostaccioli and rigatoni.
Rigatoni was
Yeah,
a big one
rigatone's a
with my
big
family.
thing in
And
my
hold
family.
sauce really well.
Exactly. That's why. Exactly. But our sauce is just slow simmered. We still do the exact same recipe. We put whole sausages in our sauce. And fennel seed.
Yeah.
And fennel seed. And the sausage cooks. Now, my mom's family used to put the raw meatballs in the sauce, and they would cook in there.
My grandma, too.
I don't know how. I can't.
Because how can you keep an eye on it? How do you
Well, I
know?
don't know. Mine break up.
Oh,
Well, so I wanted to bake them because I
Sure.
took down the recipe, but then I couldn't understand my own recipe that I'd done. I was like, what did she do, Mom? Did she just throw these raw meatballs
I don't get
into
it.
the sauce?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, she did them both ways. I said, no, not I had one way. What was it?
Yeah, exactly. Lindsay, when you read the cookbook, at the beginning, my mom always said my dad only married her for her mom's recipe for meatballs. You'll see that in the book. So
so a love
exactly.
recipe. Oh, I love that.
At your 65th dinner night, I was honored to be there. You picked out some greatest hits. And before we go, I think we need to know what those greatest
Well, see,
hits
I don't know if
might
that
be.
was good. I'm looking back now, and I feel like I limited the customers that night, and I told them what they were going to eat. But it was a 65th anniversary. Scampi Lebanese has been on the menu since the beginning, my father's signature dish. Lobster cappuccino was kind of like my addition.
That is my favorite thing at your
So
restaurant.
it has nothing to do with coffee, but of course it's in a little, and it's what we serve at the James Beard House. So that was kind of like I had something old, something new there, and then Caesar salad because that's what my dad was known for. It, tableside Caesar, and then we gave a choice of course, the chicken parmigiano, which Paul Rudd and Eric Stone Street, those guys, I could tell you this now. We just sent 2 boxes of our chicken parm kit to Paul Rudd for his birthday. His sister Mandy sent it to him.
Nice.
Is there really a parm kit?
Chicken parm kit from
Or is
Happy
this
Food
for
Company.
him?
No, Happy Food
Oh,
Company.
I
Here,
see.
you could buy it in the grocery stores, the hen house markets, and the little. See, I don't want to throw ads out there right now, but
Wow.
it's a chicken parm kit.
But another thing you have in the works. I mean, that's amazing.
What do you think the dessert is in a chicken parm kit?
Cannoli.
Cannolis, 6 cannoli shells in
That
the
was a
filling.
hard
So
one.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, you can put it together. That's so fun.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, you had to have chicken parm on the menu. But also, we said, the limonata, which is not a big seller now, but it used to be like the number one dish: veal limonata or chicken limonata, dipped in a little egg wash,
It's delicious.
with a little sherry wine, and oregano, and lemon, of course. Pesce San Pietro, just St. Peter's fish, very, very light, white wine, lemon, and capers. Simple recipes. That's what they were. And then, of course, for dessert, either cannoli or Mama's strawberry cake. And the strawberry cake was so traditional for all these years.
You thought about people coming in pairs, which
Oh, yeah.
luckily I did because
yeah.
everything I didn't order that I wanted was
Exactly.
sitting next to me.
Exactly.
Genius.
And then we gave a little sack of Zeppelis to take home with you.
Oh, those were amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm almost thinking Zeppeli food truck.
Oh, yeah. No, we've talked about that
Zeppeli-
before.
Little tiny donuts, and they were.
Buddy
sugared.
Valesca was
Oh.
doing it on his TV show last night, and he had to make Zeppelis like they do at the carnivals in New York. And you do one ingredient. That's all it is. Not one ingredient. It's just flour and yeast and a little bit of water and a little bit of sugar. Come on, it's
You
easy.
serve them hot.
Oh, hot with powdered sugar.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll kill you.
Bag, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The best. They were
They really are.
so good.
Now I wish I could drink a cup of your lobster cappuccino.
I should have brought some.
Oh no, it's just incredible. It's so thick and amazing.
Oh yeah, it's something else. It's like lobster bisque, but it's a little bit thicker than lobster bisque, and the base. There's a couple secrets to that dish also that I love. It's like Angel Hernani. We finally gave the recipe out. That was kind of like my mom's gift. My mom said, "You know what? We can actually give the recipe out now." So we gave it out on KSHB on Kansas City Live one morning, and then we also gave it out at the on the Hen House weekly flyer. So.
And I think that's one thing that people who have followed you know that you are amazing on television. In 3 minutes, you
Yes.
can get a recipe. 3 to 4 minutes,
I
you can
enjoy it.
knock out incredible recipes. What is the craziest thing that has ever
Well-
happened on a set?
30 years ago.
And it was not my fault.
Exactly. Yeah. No. 30 years ago, I was doing a Today Show. I wish there was a tape of this in Seattle. And we did flaming pasta. We did penne with the vodka, which, vodka sauce is not a real sauce. You go to Italy and you ask for vodka sauce, they look at you like, what's that? Rosso is a pink sauce, and you wave the bottle of vodka over it. That's really comes from New York. And I thought, you know what? We want to get a little attention. We're in Seattle. We're going to be on the show. And it wouldn't flame. Kind of like, oh, my God, here I am. And I'm trying to flame it. You don't put a lighter up to it, and try to flame it that way. It did eventually after I used half a bottle of vodka in the dish when they weren't looking. So when the TV camera was off.
And then the
But-
smoke detectors went off?
Oh, yeah. So I've had, believe me, it happened in the studio here not too long ago. I opened the champagne up early because I didn't want to go and take the little metal piece off, the little.
Yeah.
So I just took that off and left the corks in the bottle. And right there in the middle of the show, the corks pop and Crystal turns around like, what's going on back there? And I was and they made a joke out of it. I was so embarrassed.
It's like you're partying
So-
early.
Oh, yeah. But I've learned, and that's where I learned working on that show 30 years ago. I have everything prepped, mise en place. I teach that in my cooking class.
Yes.
And then I have another ready to go that's halfway through that I'm cooking on the show. And then my third one, which is the finished plates.
Well, you are one of the best because
Oh,
it is
thank you.
difficult for chefs to talk and do as
Oh, I
they
know.
talk and get it all
It's
in.
like today. I mean, I don't stop talking. It's your show, guys. Come on. I'm going to shut up here for a while.
No, we love this. Jasper, it was so lovely to have you
We could
in.
go on for another hour.
We could.
You have stories. and
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
great fun to follow you around
we
the city
appreciate it.
and learn new things. And
No,
I
just
knew
like to
we'd
be.
fill an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Has it been
2
an
or
hour?
3,
Come
huh?
on.
It's been an hour. Can you believe it?
Oh, my God.
Well, it sounds like you just have to come back again.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'd be honored to. Thank you very much. Best of luck also. Much success to both of you with the show, too. I can't wait to post it on social media
That's
so
right.
everybody can listen to it.
Oh, we're going to get a big hit here.
Yes.
Awesome.
Jasper.
Thank you
you.
so much.
My father always said, "Bedi mangiare bene," means eat and drink well.
Got that, Lindsay?
Eat and drink well. Will do.
Grazie, grazie.
Cannoli time.